Since the first use of the term specialty coffee in the 1970s, our community has been challenged with how to define it. Meanings have ranged from the very specific, like the green coffee classification system and cupping scores, to the broad and aspirational. But so far, a useful, measurable, concise definition has eluded us. At some point, when the concept of specialty coffee comes up, so does the word quality. This term seems to be central to our conception of specialty coffee and deserves some attention for that reason. Let's look a little deeper at this word, quality, and what it implies. Here's Oxford's definition of quality, and it's the one that's usually meant when talking about specialty coffee. The standard of something as measured against others of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something. It has within it the terms excellent and standard, which resonate with us. But Oxford has a second meaning of quality too, which is a distinctive attribute or characteristic possessed by someone or something. This is the use of the term when we want to describe someone's positive qualities or the properties of a thing. It contains with it an operative word, attribute. So what about this term attribute? It, along with the adjective distinctive, form the substance of the second meaning of qualities. And it is, after all, these qualities that give us an overall sense of product quality. This connection was made clear to me when reading this paper by economists Togo Traore, Norbert Wilson, and D.Q. Fields. This work, an economic model trying to explain the origin of coffee scores and their relationship to auction prices in the cup of excellence context, focuses on attributes as essential building blocks of quality. I'll talk a little bit more about their work in a bit, but for now, let's just think about this concept of attributes and how they contribute to a holistic idea of quality. Here's another definition, this one of attribute. A quality, there's that word again, or feature regarded as a characteristic or inherent part of someone or something. So we can think of attributes as all of the properties that make a coffee what it is, and furthermore, what makes special coffee special. A coffee's flavor profile and cupping score are attributes of a particular coffee. For example, as are the physical experience and grade. Roast color and size are attributes of a coffee, but so are the name of the farm it was grown on or the country it came from. It might even carry a certification. Now, these attributes aren't all alike, but they all contribute to our conception of what a coffee is and what makes it special. We might think of all of these attributes as sort of a halo of properties that define and give meaning to the coffee. These are the qualities that form the basis for quality. Now, since these attributes differ, we can take another step in organizing them. Some attributes are intrinsic to the coffee and are a part of the material reality. This would include the flavor of the coffee due to its chemical makeup, its physical appearance, grade, etc. But also important are the extrinsic attributes, which are usually information about the coffee, things like its country of origin, brand, or sustainability certification. Both categories of attribute are important, and both add value to the coffee. And, in fact, as distinctive positive attributes accumulate, the coffee can be seen as getting more and more special. In this way, attributes can be conceived on a continuum. Coffees with few distinctive attributes at one end of the spectrum, and with many distinctive attributes on the other. Simply by documenting the number of attributes of a coffee, one can locate a given coffee, or even a coffee experience, along this continuum, using attributes to distinguish coffees from one another. So with this continuum in mind, we can conceive of segments based on attributes, with commodity coffee occupying the few attributes side of the continuum, and specialty coffee occupying the many attributes side. This makes sense, right? Commodity coffee seeks to be non-distinctive. That's the point of a commodity. As attributes accumulate, however, the coffee moves along the continuum towards specialty. But because it's a continuum, it can be segmented in more than one way. The lines aren't sharp between the segments. And this more accurately shows the complex, diverse nature of the global coffee marketplace. This is not binary thinking. It's a much more sophisticated and nuanced way to think about quality. But let's talk about attributes in a little bit more detail. Here's a list of attributes, the sensory ones we hold so important in specialty coffee circles. This list of 100 or so descriptive sensory attributes is a big part of what makes coffee special, and it's one reason why so many coffee professionals think of the coffee taster's flavor wheel as a symbol of specialty coffee itself. It's a glorious sunburst of coffee attributes, or even a halo, the metaphor I used earlier to describe attributes of coffee. But here's another list of attributes, this time organized on a coffee label. These include intrinsic attributes, like the roast of the coffee, but also extrinsic ones, like the farm name and certification status. It's all of these attributes that serve to distinguish and therefore to differentiate coffee in the marketplace, which is, after all, the essence of what specialty coffee is. So what are some of the advantages of an attribute-based conception of coffee? Well, one is that attributes can be measured. Here's an example of attribute measurement from a study by Batali et al. On sensory attribute evolution across brewing fractions and brewing time. You can see that the attributes tea floral, sweet, bitter, and sour were measured, in this case by a sensory panel, which allowed us to characterize the flavor profile of the coffee. This ability to measure makes it possible to quantify these attributes empirically, which is an important element of all kinds of research. But even better, the value of attributes can also be measured, an extremely important element in any business community. This ability allows us to measure how coffee is valued by the end consumer or priced in the wholesale marketplace. It was this concept that informed the work of Traore and his colleagues in studying how Cup of Excellence scores were correlated with attributes and how these attributes affected scores at the final auction. The intrinsic sensory attributes, as well as the extrinsic coffee information, was analyzed against auction prices using an economic methodology called the hedonic model. What they were able to glimpse is how specific attributes, like the sensory attributes listed here, could predict high prices at the auction. For example, the highest effect was from the sensory attribute fruity, which seemed to have a powerful effect on coffee at the auction. Coffees described this way were more likely to have high scores and to fetch high prices. In another study, this time from the excellent National Coffee Data Trends study by our friends and collaborators at the NCA, consumers were asked which attributes, both intrinsic and extrinsic, drive consumer purchase intent. Specific level of roast tops the list, along with fair price paid to farmer. Further down the list are attributes like added ingredients and farm details. This gives us a clear insight into how attributes are valued among these American consumers. Finally, since attributes are descriptive rather than prescriptive, and since ideas about distinctiveness and quality are so diverse throughout the world, the idea of basing a specialty coffee definition on the existence of distinctive attributes, rather than a rigid conception of quality, allows us to embrace the diversity of our global multicultural coffee community and the various meanings of special throughout the world. We know that in coffee, sensory attributes are valued differently in different parts of the world and different cultures and cuisines. Extrinsic attributes will have different values in different markets. The attributes conception respects and even celebrates this diversity. So with all this in mind, how can we answer our essential question about the definition of specialty? How can we use the conception of attributes to define specialty coffee? So here it is, the attribute conception of specialty coffee. Specialty coffee is a coffee or coffee experience that is recognized for its distinctive attributes, resulting in a higher value in the marketplace. The benefits of this definition are many. First, its simplicity means that it's applicable across coffees and coffee experiences and can be deployed in a variety of ways. Importantly, the measurability of attributes means the concept itself allows for measurement and research. Finally, this definition recognizes that attributes form the basis of value, which is critical for all of the coffee businesses and professionals in our community. Thanks for your attention.